So I wanted to spend some time going over the wide receiver prospects for the 2025 NFL draft for no reason in particular, but I wanted to go through the guys that are listed on just one of these sources, NFL Draft Buzz, as first or second round prospects. And look, NFL Draft Buzz, obviously it's not perfect. None of these websites are, none of these resources are, but I do think that they do a pretty vigorous job of adding prospects to the ranks. So I think that that's at least one place we can start. I do not agree with these rankings. Obviously, no one will if you've spent any time on it. But let's get into things. Tetairoa Mcmillan. This is the stud of the class. This is a guy that's going to go top 5 overall. 6'5", 212 pounds, projected to run a 4.50 40. If you were going to comp him to anyone, honestly, it might be Marvin Harrison Jr., who came out just last year. Right now, he has 57 receptions, 982 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a 17.2-yard average in this season, this college season. You're going to run into a little bit of criticism over the sort of level of play that he has had, his level of competition, especially when you're looking at some of the SEC guys that are on this list. With their stats, etc. But he is a size guy. This is a guy who's going to be giving you jump balls in the end zone. He's a guy who's going to be a deep threat. He's a guy that's going to be all over the field now, as he is going to be a top 5 pick. I don't know that we here in Kansas City have to necessarily worry too much about him. But after that spot, I think the draft board for this wide receiver class is going to kind of be all over the place. I think there are going to be people who look at Emeka Egbuka and do not believe that they will believe that he has the ceiling that I think he undoubtedly has. I do not believe they will give credence to his floor. I think that he has a decent floor. I think there are going to be people who look at Emeka Egbuka and think that he just has a terrible floor to him. 6'1", 205 pounds, out of Ohio State, projected to run a 4.30 40-yard dash, projected to have an average vertical. This is, wow. I don't know if I want to put a direct comp on him at this point. I think that he does have some holes in his game. I think that there are going to be questions around why did he want to return to school. He was projected to come out last season, but it was a loaded wide receiver class, and that was an understandable decision. But is he going to pay for it as far as draft position goes this year? Does he have the ego necessary? He is, you see here, quick twitch. He is a quick twitch guy. He is a guy that is going to be able to change direction. He's going to be able to run a number of routes. I don't know that everybody's going to have him ranked as their number 2 wide receiver. While I think Tetairoa Mcmillan is going to be everyone's one, I think there are going to be people who have Trey Harris at number 2. I think there are going to be people who have Luther Burden at number 2. Don't forget, so the thing that's Luther Burden has fallen drastically in these rankings, but in my opinion, it's because the Brady Cook is just not good. Brady Cook is just not good. So here's a guy that is interesting. Xavier Restrepo has risen in these rankings incredibly. So I passed this up, I apologize. Emeka Egbuka, 43 receptions, 546 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 12.7-yard average on the season. Another criticism he is going to face is if you are that speed guy, if you are 6'1" and you have 4.3 speed, why are you at the 12.7 yard per reception average in college? So he's going to pay maybe a little bit for that as well. But Xavier Restrepo is a guy who has risen drastically in this draft class. Right now, he has 43 receptions, 710 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 16.5-yard average for a Miami team that is excelling. He does have that ball tracking capability. That is I don't know that I want to say he's elite at it, but he looks to be really good at it right now. I'm going to have to do a little bit more work on him. But, oh, wow, they have the... I don't think those are updated, though. So they do have the stats on here, but I don't think they're updated. Xavier Restrepo is a guy that I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs would have maybe too much interest in, because I think that I don't know that he's going to be the elite type of athlete you have to be to warrant having so many 5'10", sub 200-pound guys on one roster. Now, if he falls to them at 32 and he's the best player available, will they take him and make it work? Yeah, I think so. Then you have Tre Harris, who might be my number 2 in this class. Tre Harris, 6'3", 210 pounds, projected to run a 4.55 40-yard dash. These are SEC numbers. I know I tout up the SEC. I probably overplay the SEC significance, all of that. In the SEC so far this season, 59 receptions, 987 yards, 6 touchdowns with a 16.7 yard average. I think Tre Harris, now there's going to be a little bit of question over his cone drills. What is his change of direction like? If he does well in those change of direction drills, 6'3", 210 pounds with a 4.5 40-yard dash and good cone drills, paired with this productivity in the SEC for a non-traditional powerhouse like Ole Miss, that is going to spell a very good profile for the NFL draft. I think that Tre Harris might be my number 2 or number 3 wide receiver in this draft. And he's somebody that I think can line up all over. He's somebody that I think is strong enough and fast enough to be able to really execute at the NFL level. And I don't think you're going to have problems with him learning the NFL game. I don't think you're going to have problems with him making the adjustment to the physicality of the NFL. Then we move on to a name as fast as Xavier Restrepo has risen, Luther Burden has precipitously fallen. Luther Burden, 5'11", 208 pounds. He is projected to run a 4.41 40-yard dash. I'm not quite sure he's going to be that fast. He has suffered extremely from the quarterback situation at Missouri. Now, the interesting thing for Luther Burden is he brings up 2 comps. I think he reminds me as a wide receiver of Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden fell in the draft because he did not have a great 40. Once you get to the NFL, your 40 is less about what the numbers are and more about how fast you can be on the field, right? There's a timed 40 and there's field time. Anquan Bolden was fast on the football field, maybe not necessarily when you had a stopwatch in your hand. He reminds me of Anquan Bolden as a wide receiver. He reminds me, I don't know. I don't really have a comp yet because it's sort of a weird thing to comp, right? How does he remind you of a wide receiver taking handoffs? I don't know that I necessarily have a comp for that yet, but the thing that he does really, he falls forward like a running back. He falls forward like a power back. That is something that is very compelling about Luther Burden with the ball in his hand as a taking the handoff, etc. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. When you start to look at these numbers, if this was everyone in the NFL's draft board, Luther Burden is I didn't even check on this, but 100% undoubtedly, in my mind, a first-round talent. They have him listed as first to mid. Okay. So 1,000% in my mind, Luther Burden is a first-round talent. Tre Harris, first-round talent. Emeka Egbuka, first-round talent. Tetairoa Mcmillan, first-round talent. Xavier Restrepo seems a bit like a high second-round guy to me. But if these are the 5 wide receivers that go in the first round, and we've seen 5+ wide receivers go in the first round before, Luther Burden's the guy that falls to the Kansas City Chiefs, or at least gets close, right? Luther Burden is the guy that falls into the 20s, and maybe Brett Veach puts together a package to go up and get him. Luther Burden on the Kansas City Chiefs, in addition to Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, would be a very compelling trio. And I do think, the reason I'm doing this video, I really do think that wide receiver is a position that the Kansas City Chiefs might pursue in this upcoming draft in the first round, definitely first or second round. You have the looming suspension of Rashee Rice. That much is true. You have the ever-evolving... So the Chiefs were going to go into this season with Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy. They were looking to have a big 3. Hollywood Brown's a free agent after basically never taking a meaningful regular season snap for the Kansas City Chiefs. He could return this season and never take a regular season snap for the Kansas City Chiefs, because if he does return, it will be in the postseason. So I don't know that the Kansas City Chiefs want to do that. Again, they want a big 3 at wide receiver. It seems obvious that's what they want. If Luther Burden becomes that third, guys, I think you've got a winning hand. And then the next name on this list would be just too funny. Isaiah Bond, 5'11", 180, out of Texas, projected to run a 4.28 40-yard dash. I don't think that he has I think he's more of a track guy. Now, this says legit burner with track speed to stack corners and blow off. I think this is more of a track guy than Xavier Worthy. He's also a little more stout, 5'11", 180. This could be, if the Chiefs decide to go here in the first round, I think it's possible the Chiefs use this season, if they do win the Super Bowl, have the 32nd pick. If they do go to the Super Bowl, have the 31st pick. I think this might be a season where we see the Kansas City Chiefs trade back into the second round and try to pick up some more ammunition. They do need a whole lot of things. In that case, Isaiah Bond, I believe, is your prototypical second-round receiver. They have him listed as a first to mid here. I think this is your prototypical second-round receiver. He's a guy that has some definitive strengths, but also has some things that he needs to work on. If you fall back into that second round, Isaiah Bond is the perfect replacement for Mecole Hardman, but he's going to be Mecole plus. He's going to be Mecole plus a little bit of wiggle. Mecole does not have the wiggle. I don't know Mecole's weight. Mecole's a pretty stacked guy. I think Isaiah Bond is right in that same sort of neighborhood. If he does run the 4.28, Mecole was he a 4.29 or a 4.31 guy? Something like that. 4.33, something like that. Whatever the case, right in that same neighborhood with speed. But I think that Isaiah Bond does have a few things on Mecole Hardman. I think that Isaiah Bond is better at catching than is Mecole Hardman. I think that Isaiah Bond has better change of direction than does Mecole Hardman. So that would be an interesting big 3 of Isaiah Bond, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice. I do think Rashee Rice will be suspended next season. I do think he will come back next season. I don't think it'll be a whole season thing. I think it'll probably be a 6-game thing. We've seen what the Kansas City Chiefs can do for 6 games without their number 1 wide receiver, right? So I think that a guy like Isaiah Bond paired with Xavier Worthy, another diminutive 4.2 guy from Texas, you have those guys on either side of the field with Rashee Rice at the wide receiver spot. I don't know that it would be the most favorable of these top 6 names to put in your offense. But man, I think it would be a lot of fun. I think that Andy Reid with those 3 weapons could do a whole lot of stuff, could do a whole lot of damage. And Yeah, that would be a wild time. The last name here that is listed as a first or second round type prospect is Felton. I think this is definitely a second round guy, but guys, we're going to go over some numbers here. Oh, Luther Burden. I think I forgot Luther Burden and Isaiah Bond's numbers. Luther Burden, 40 receptions, 450 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 11.3-yard average. That's possession wide receiver stuff. But again, he's running in a very limited offense. Isaiah Bond, 23 receptions, 380 yards, 4 touchdowns with a 16.5-yard average. Not the most impressive numbers, but you're looking at an offense there that has a whole bunch of weapons and has been a bit beleaguered this season by one thing or another. Now, Felton, 6'2", 181 pounds, so intriguing size, but a bit underweight. You're looking at a guy that is projected to run a 4.61 40-yard dash. Again, I think that a big impact on how that 4.61 is interpreted is going to be how he performs in cone drills. Because listen to this. 73 receptions, 907 yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 12.4-yard average. Another guy with 900-plus yards into a young college football season. They list him here as a route running technician who can shake defenders at all 3 levels. I'm not sure how I feel about his game or how it translates to the NFL level at this point. I think that he's an intriguing prospect. I think that if he can run under that 4.61, you've definitely got a case for a guy that could be a first-round pick. You've got a case for a guy that, well, like the 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 in the first round. Got a little bit of time in the college season left to see, exactly who he is. But I think that's sort of the area that you're looking at is the middle of the second round for Felton right now. Beyond that, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to take a couple wide receivers in this draft, and I think they're going to do that because it's a shame this season that they don't have a couple more young guys to develop. And I say that because here we are on the precipice of a game where a wide receiver was elevated from the practice squad and they decided to go with Montrell Washington, not one of the younger guys. Now, it could be that they're going with Montrell Washington instead of one of the younger guys because it looks like they're going to have to keep activating guys from the practice squad for the wide receiver core. In that case, you don't want to burn through Nico Remigio and Justin Ross first. It could also be that they think those two guys or Montrell Washington is the one guy that is ready for the NFL level. Now, because I do think they're going to take more than one wide receiver, I do want to talk about Theo Wease. 6'2", 192 pounds, out of Allen, Texas, projected to run a 4.42 40-yard dash. I don't know if he's going to be that fast. Ironically, the guy he kind of reminds me of, and this is going to be a little bit sacrilege because, right, this guy is he kind of reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins. He's a guy that is maybe never as open as you want, but is always able to make the catch. He's a guy that I think is going to be a very good possession receiver at the NFL level. Another guy that I wanted to point out here is Torrey Horton. It seems like I have been talking about Torrey Horton in the NFL draft for about 9 years now, but 6'3", 185 pounds, projected to run a 4.45 40. He doesn't look to me like he is particularly good at anything. He looks to me like a guy that is pretty good at everything. Sometimes that's what it takes to actually take your game to the NFL level, is that you're not a speed merchant, but you're fast enough so that the slow corners can't stay with you and the fast corners try to out-twitch you. You're not a great big guy, but you're big enough that the little corners can't high point the ball like you can, and the big corners don't have the change of direction that you do. He's one of those guys to me in this draft who's just enough everywhere, right, that I think he's going to have a long career in the NFL. And whereas this is a guy that's going to be interesting to look at going forward as well. Not a whole lot of production, right? So you're looking up here, 12 receptions, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, a receiving average of 30.4 yards. What was going on here? 6'5", 214 pounds, a 4.43 40-yard dash. The HS here means that he jumped that 34.5-inch vertical in high school. This is a guy that I am just coming into sort of following. This is the type of guy who races up draft boards. If this guy ends up, instead of running a 4.43, runs a 4.39, right? 4/100ths of a second faster than what he's projected to run here, but he gets into that 4.3 range at 6'5", 214, he's going to be a first rounder. Those guys race up the draft boards, and they're interesting to watch. So just a couple guys that I thought were worth highlighting there. Here's another one that is sort of interesting. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with him. He listed, so I guess I should go into this. Berrien Brown, 6'1", 182 pounds, projected to have a 4.28 40-yard dash. Guys, I think that might be accurate. I think he might be one of those guys. And if the Kansas City Chiefs get a speed merchant in the first, and like this says here, he's projected to be a 5th rounder, I think that's probably about where he goes. If the Kansas City Chiefs get another speed, say Emeka Egbuka ends up falling to wherever it is the Chiefs are picking, or the Chiefs end up trading up, they've got a 4.3 guy that is going to be an outside wide receiver or outside wide receiver capable. 5th round, 6th round, Berrien Brown is there, and you draft a 4.28 guy, this offense could be absolutely wild, very, very fast. But I thought that was something that we might go through here, some wide receivers. Instead of doing an entire mock draft, just talking about different positions, let me know what you guys like more. Do you want to see more mock drafts on the channel on Sundays before games, or would you like to see more positional breakdowns like this? We could always go over offensive tackle. Cornerback, I think, is definitely something the Kansas City Chiefs might take. If Ashton Gentry is there somehow at 32 or wherever it is the Chiefs draft, I will be writing letters that they should take Ashton Gentry. So in college, Ashton Gentry is probably the closest thing to Barry Sanders that we've seen in a very long time. Maybe the closest thing we've seen to Barry Sanders since Barry Sanders. However, at the NFL level, you're going to love this. I think Ashton Gentry is Priest Holmes. Look at his game and tell me it does not project to the NFL level the way that Priest Holmes played. I think he's going to be a first rounder. Obviously, Priest Holmes was not. Priest Holmes went undrafted, so he's going to come into the NFL more heralded than did Priest Holmes, but I think that is a general comp for Ashton Gentry. But yeah, let me know what you think about things like this. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.